akaniambia mimi tafuta Bwana Ruto ongea na yeye. Kenya ikichomeka tutakuwa na nchi nyingine. Mpaka hii tuzime hii moto, watu waketi chini waendelee waliwane.
Retired President Uhuru Kenyatta asked me to collaborate with President William Ruto to address the issues raised by the Gen Z demonstrations, ODM leader Raila Odinga now claims. Kenya considering introducing toll fees on 6 major highways across the country that will see Kenyans pay to use the proposed designated roads. Plus, woman and her 4 children die in a tragic road accident along the Nairobi-Nakuru highway in Mbaruk after their car crashed into a lorry. Well, good evening to you. Punchline begins right now. I'm Alan Owino. Our sign language interpreter for this session is Walter Asere. ODM leader Raila Odinga has once again revealed the discussions behind the scenes that led to the formation of the broad-based government. Speaking while attending the burial of Mzee Chirchir Masit, father to former IBC Commissioner Irene Masit, Odinga said former President Uhuru Kenyatta is the one who initiated the discussion at the height of the Gen Z revolution. And as our political affairs reporter Brian Amwai now tells us, Odinga maintains that there was no handshake between him and President Ruto, despite some of his lieutenants serving in government.
As the broad-based government continues to take shape following the swearing-in of new CSs, the details of how that came about continues to come to life. Raila Odinga seemingly played a key role that led to the current state of affairs that has seen some of the ODM strong men and women be part of the Ruto-led administration. The latest revelation comes on the heels of Raila's statement that Ruto begged him to help him, opening the lead on the crisis that was and the forces that came together to piece together a nation that was seemingly falling apart. Odinga revealed that former President Uhuru Kenyatta was at the center of the discussions behind the scenes.
Sasa ile nchi inachomeka, Uhuru ndiye alinipiga mimi simu. Uhuru akaniambia mimi tafuta Bwana Ruto ongea na yeye. Kenya ikichomeka tutakuwa na nchi nyingine. Mpaka hii tuzime hii moto, watu waketi chini waendelee waliwane. William ndiye akanitafuta. Na mimi nikaongea na yeye wazi kabisa. Mimi unajua mambo yangu, mimi sifichagi mambo.
As Odinga's hand seems to have painted itself all over the Ruto cabinet, the opposition chief still maintains that his hand did not shake that of the president and that all he did was donate some of his good men to help propel the nation forward.
Magazeti hawa wanaandika sijui nini Raila na Ruto handshake, hakuna handshake. Hakuna handshake. Wakati huu naona mimi sijaingia kwa serikali. Hatuko kubaliana na Ruto atituwe na serikali mseto. Hatuna mseto. We don't have a coalition government.
The purge, however, continues as the rot in the Ruto-led administration seems to be deeper than just 22 cabinet secretaries. Odinga now says next in line of clearance are the principal secretaries, with details emerging that close to 20 will lose their job, with Odinga having proposed a number.
Akasikia, mimi hii cabinet nitatoa. Nitawapeleka nyumbani. Nikasema hata hao makatibu ambao wako pale wako chafu yote. Usafishi wote. Ili tukuwe na mwanzo mpya. Lakini mzuri zaidi watu wawe na ile mkongamano ambayo tulikuwa nayo huko mbele. Kuna mambo mengi ambayo hayakusuluhishwa.
The move has been welcomed by the political class.
Lakini mliona juzi. Unajua watu wengi wanafikiria ati hii serikali ni ya muungano. Hii serikali ilifika mahali mzee huyu akasema nchi yetu ni kubwa kuliko sisi wote. Na wakati alisema hivyo pia akakutana na ndugu yake William, ni mtu muungwana. Akasema pia yeye apende ukabila. Hakuenda kuongea na Raila wakaandika agreement ya kuunganisha serikali. Lakini kulingana na wisdom yake pia William Ruto anajua watu wa ODM. Anajua fulani na akaomba mzee wacha tupanue serikali, wacha bado nipeane hii fiketi kwa sababu ili tuunganishe watu wote.
Mzee Chirchir Masit was eulogized as a man who believed in the growth of others and held his community together. The absence of his daughter Irene Masit, who is now in exile following the 2022 elections, becoming a subject of conversation at the funeral, with leaders calling on the opposition chief to intervene. Brian Amoai, K24.
President William Ruto has urged leaders from various political affiliations to support ongoing efforts to unite Kenyans for the sake of the unity and the transformation. The president, in the second day of his Kisii tour, has to this end appealed to leaders who do not support the broad-based government to do so in the spirit of patriotism.
Speaking during his second day of a three-day development tour of Kisii and Nyamira counties, President Ruto said tribal and sectoral politics was outdated.
Imefika wakati ambapo umoja wa nchi, maendeleo ya nchi ni muhimu kuliko mirengo, kuliko vyama, kuliko makabila, kuliko masehemu. Mimi nawauliza ndugu zangu watu wa Nyamira na watu wa Kisii, munakubali tuungane ama munataka tutengane?
He said that the unity and transformation of the country are more important than the selfish personal and political interests of leaders.
In the life of a nation, there comes a time when the greater interests of the nation, when the progress, prosperity, transformation of the nation is greater than the sectarian interest of parties and formations. It is greater than the personal interest of leaders. And that is why I commend the leaders who have agreed out of patriotism for us to work together.
Sentiments that were echoed by his deputy, Rigathi Gachagua, who said he fully supported the recently appointed cabinet secretaries, including those from ODM.
Hata sisi tumekubaliana na rais. Tushirikishe wa Kenya wote, Kenya ni moja, si ndio? Wale wamekuja walikuwa ODM ni mawaziri, tutawasupport, tutaunga mkono. Hii Kenya ni yetu sisi zote.
Kisii Governor Simbarati on his part commended the president for bringing Kenyans together, noting that had the country disintegrated during the recent chaos, ordinary Kenyans would have suffered the most.
Serikali ambayo tumetengeneza hapa, tuhakikishe kwamba tumeenda mbele, tutengeneze nchi yetu. Kama nchi yetu ingeanguka, hakuna yule ambaye angekuwa na amani. Hakuna hata mmoja. Rais hapo ako na uwezo, ataingia ndege aruke. Mimi niko na uwezo na mimi nitaweza toroka, lakini hao wananchi wa kawaida watakuwa wanauana.
During his tour, Ruto broke ground for the construction of the 3 billion Kisii County Cancer Treatment Center and commissioned the outpatient surgical and mother and child units at Keroka Level 4 Hospital in Nyamira County, among other projects in the region. Busara Naman, K24 TV.
Elsewhere, a mother, her pair of male twins aged 7 months and 2 other sons today morning died in a grisly road accident at Mbaruku area along the Nakuru-Nairobi highway. The accident occurred after a Mercedes-Benz being driven by the father collided head-on with a Simba cement lorry, sustaining serious injuries in the process. Mumbi Wambugu reports.
Tuesday morning at Mbaruku along Nakuru-Nairobi highway. This is what is left after a grisly road accident that has left 5 dead, a woman and her 4 sons, among them a pair of twins aged 7 months. Gilgil area OCPD Jamle Kangaroya confirmed that the Mercedes-Benz, which was coming from Nairobi headed to Nakuru, was trying to overtake when it collided head-on with the Simba cement truck.
He left his lane to overtake. Then unfortunately, there was another lorry which was coming from the Nakuru direction towards Gilgil, a Mercedes Actros. There was head-on collision, and due to the impact, the passengers on board of the Mercedes compressor, 4 of them died.
Garoya further noted that the Mercedes driver sustained serious injuries and was rushed to St. Joseph Hospital, while the bodies of the deceased were moved to a local morgue.
He sustained injuries and he is in hospital. We are to communicate from him for another follow-up report.
Witnesses claim that Ambani was driving without caution and overspeeding. Maurice Wahome, the truck driver, told the press that he was forced to veer off the road to avoid colliding with the vehicle. However, it was little too late.
Huyo gari ilikuwa speed sana na kwa imeofatiki nikamhepa. Hata akakuja pahali niko. Hapa kando ya barabara huko kwa nyasi.
The Nakuru-Nairobi highway has for a long time been a death trap, with the grisly road accidents reported nearly every week. Residents continue to urge the national government to consider construction of alternative routes for trucks and canters to curb the never-ending accidents. Mombi Wambogo, K24 TV.
After being shown the door following the dissolution of the cabinet by the president, outgoing Treasury Chief Professor Njuguna Ndung'u has pointed fingers to where the smelly potato lies in Ruto's government, citing resistance to change, ghost workers, untenable debt repayment plans, and why Kenya ought to rethink the current education funding model. David Kagina with more on this.
In the handover notes to the incoming Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi, Professor Njuguna Ndung'u was not mean with details of where the shoe is pinching Kenya, lifting the lead on the issues crippling the economy and other critical sectors in the country. Among the areas highlighted by the former Treasury head is the education sector, which is funded by at least 34% of the national budget 2024-2025. From concerns raised by the Auditor General, so broken is the funding model that non-existent schools receive capitation and actual schools underfunded.
The current education funding model is not sustainable and has to be reformed after a very comprehensive auditing process.
Of the 187 schools sampled, JSS enrollment stood at 29,653. However, capitation only catered for 22,313 learners, leaving out at least 7,340 learners without funding. Ndung'u recommends a relook into the education model way down from the basic to university level to conform with economic realities.
There are some people who came up in other ministries giving us some figure of money we lose every year because of this capitation. There is a major issue. But if you want to get a glimpse of it, talk to the Auditor General.
Ndung'u is also of the opinion that the government should think again about its debt repayment policy, citing that the current revenue generated is not enough to service the national debt, highlighting this area for his successor to deeply look into.
Debt levels and debt burden cannot be sustained by the current revenues. Total revenues stand at about 16.5% of GDP, and the target for this 2024 was actually 18.6%, with a finance bill that is not there. So it means that those revenues may not be realized.
The former Treasury boss was also keen to note that Kenya's domestic borrowing strategy of Treasury bills and bonds is untenable, saying it's creating liquidity challenges with some state departments struggling to even sustain their salaries.
These liquidity constraints requires strategic options to avoid them creating a solvency challenge. This requires a very strong signaling approach.
The rot in form of budgeted corruption extends to ghost workers and pensioners. Professor Ndung'u is calling for government urgency in eliminating the vice that has been siphoning the taxpayers by linking IFMIS and KRA's payee platform.
This has been resisted, I must tell you. The PS and I have been working on this. And we have been working with some of our staff. But it has been resisted. But it has to be done to clean up and eliminate ghost workers in public workers and even pensioners.
With some loopholes and suggested solutions already established, the incoming Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi takes up the ministry amidst sharp criticism of the government's tax policy and pressure on the cost of living. David Kagina, K24, Nairobi.
Marsabit leaders have issued an urgent call for intervention by the Ministries of Interior and Defense to address escalating insecurity and lawlessness along the Kenya-Ethiopia border in Marsabit. This plea follows a deadly attack on Monday evening which claimed 8 lives. Local leaders allege that the assault was carried out by Ethiopian militia. Here is Ben Kirira with more.
At 11:40 p.m. on Monday, a lorry transporting foodstuffs from Nairobi to Dukana was ambushed and set ablaze at Forole. Of the 10 individuals on board, 8 were shot dead and their bodies were burned. One passenger was severely injured, while a minor managed to escape unharmed.
Ethiopian army, military or militias, they have no business to operate from the Kenyan soil.
It is now very clear this is a border issue. It's not an issue between or amongst the communities within our country.
The skirmishes along the border have led to significant displacement of people, further exacerbating the humanitarian situation in the region.
Tendo kama hiyo akiwa namna hiyo, kama hata sisi mnafanya vile au wanafanya sisi, na kwa vita vibaya, vita kubwa.
Sisi tunataka NPRs tupatiwe kwa wingi along this border country kutoka Dukana mpaka Moyale.
Tumeweka patrol ya wanajeshi wetu na askari wetu na tunahakika security itapatikana.
Marsabit County leadership has raised concerns about the growing lawlessness in the area, which has led to numerous killings, abductions, and the destruction of property.
This kind of thing might even make other people have taking advantage and eliciting unnecessary conflict among our people.
Hii shida imekuja jana usiku isilete shida kati yetu kwa sababu hii mambo sio yetu, ni mambo ya kigeni.
In addition to the Monday night attack, 2 Korean missionaries were abducted and remain incommunicado.
Our missionaries wamefanya kazi ya kuhudumia wananchi wa hapo Marsabit. Haswa watoto maskini wengi wameelimishwa na hawa. Afya ya watu wameangalia.
Local leaders have appealed to President William Ruto to engage in dialogue with his Ethiopian counterpart to restore peace in the northeastern region. They also urged Marsabit residents to maintain peace and order during the current turbulent times.
Let us establish border crossing so that those who are crossing those borders at will must be checked.
In order to bring these attacks to a halt so that calm and normalcy is restored once and for all.
The bodies of the deceased have since been transported to the Marsabit mortuary for preservation and post-mortem examinations. Meanwhile, efforts to pursue the attackers are ongoing. Ben Kirera, K24, Nairobi.
Well, that report by Ben Kirera brings us to a first break right in Punchline. We'll be back with more updates in a short while. Stick around for that.
This August ni wakati wa kuachia watoto remote.